Now, reading, al-Qira'at, is our next topic. If you guys remember from last time, we have been discussing tajweed, which is the early Muslims' attempt both to clarify and beautify the oral production of the text, meaning making the sounds of the Quran beautiful to pronounce, distinct in terms of manner of pronunciation and place of articulation, and also distinct from non-Quranic mundane speech. And I also made a remark, probably more than once, that it is an acceptable aspect of an oral culture in general in the production of a text, divine or literary, to have certain rituals for the reproduction of that text. From an oral cultural point of view, this tajweed may have been that. While there is not any inherent religious significance to tajweed, it has acquired some sort of veneration among Arabs and Muslims. Today, we start looking at another aspect of this oral cultural product. And when I use this term with the Quran, I do not intend in any way to take away from its status. But it is an oral text, revealed orally and transmitted orally, and the main mode of consuming this text is oral. So, qira'at, or the variant readings of the Quran, are the other aspect of this oral culture. It fits very well, not only with the nature of the Quran as an oral product, cultural product, but also with the general culture of the day. The Arabs on the Arabian Peninsula were largely an illiterate culture, whose transmission of knowledge and art was not through the written text. As a matter of fact, putting the Quran or committing the Quran to a mushaf, a codex, was a novelty. Any question or a comment? What are the qira'at or the variant readings? Variant readings are textual variations that take place on all levels of linguistic analysis within the text. Meaning, there are variations on the level of the sound. There are morphological variations and syntactic variations as well. It's very important to note that variation or these variants in the Quran are do not occur all through the text. They are not general. They're very local. And I'll explain. So, for instance, if one variant reading pronounces the Hamza, the glottal stop, or not, the behavior of the Hamza in this particular way is limited to one word or few words. It's not generalized all through the Quran. Meaning that the Hamza all through the Quran is not guaranteed to behave in the same way, in a uniform manner. So the alteration is local. The second point about qira'at, besides being localized behaviors, variation is very limited within the text. You do not expect every word or every other word or a word in every verse to have different qira'at. And these 2 points distinguish qira'at from tajweed. Tajweed is a set of rules that work all through the Quranic text. They are limited to the Quran, that's true.
Professor,
Yeah.
sorry, there's 2 girls in the group chat. They're saying that they've been in the waiting room, Heba and Sajida.
Yes, I admitted them. Thank you for reminding me.
Thank you.
Okay. So where was I? Yes, the tajweed rules are rules that control the behavior the pronunciation behavior of particular sounds all through the Quran, limited to the Quran, but all through the Quran. Variation in readings is different. It is localized to a particular word or a very, very small group of words. Any question or comment?
I'm looking forward to figuring out what you mean because I have like a Quran with I think that they're called canonical variations, and it looks like it's throughout the text. So I'll be curious to figure out what you're meaning by that.
No, I'm curious to know what you mean by what you say. Can you please explain?
Well, I haven't been able to really figure this out. I just know there's 7 readings, but there's a certain Quran where they show them in different colors. And
Yes.
when you look at it, it looks like the color variations are throughout the text. So I'm not sure why that is.
Yes,
And
they are throughout the text. That is very true. They are throughout the text, but they are not in every word of the text. That's one thing. And they are not in every representation or in every occurrence of, say, for instance, that sound phenomenon, the Hamza, or the Aleph, or the Shadda, right?
Okay, I understand you're talking about one particular phenomenon isn't necessarily is not the same consistently.
Yes, it does not behave with the same consistency all through the text. So that's the difference, conceptual difference from Tajweed. Other questions or comments? Thank you, Brian.
Sure.
You have one more in the waiting room. Sorry.
Who's in the waiting room?
Fred.
Fred is in the waiting. Fred was just here with us. Okay.
His computer turned off.
Okay, let me admit him. So somebody else had a question? Or a comment? No? Okay. Interestingly, qira'at comes from the root qara'a. And qara'a as a root entails production, out loud production, or emission, which takes us to a conceptual belief related aspect of how the Arabs, early Arabs in particular, understood these variants to be. The closest I can bring them to you is if you have somehow read Plato's myth of the cave. Do you guys know Plato, the Greek philosopher?
Yes, and I know the story you're talking about.
Yes. So what's the story of the cave, Jared?
Isn't it about seeing illusions and believing illusions?
Yes, seeing shadows
Shadows.
reflected on the walls of the cave. They are reflections of an objective reality, but they are not reality. They're twice removed from reality. But they are reflections of reality. You should look at these variant readings. The early Arabs would have us understand that they are the worldly products of an ideal text of the Quran. So no matter how these variants come out, they are reflections of the ideal text. So the text in itself is non-variant. Our production thereof is that. Those of you who studied linguistics may understand this even a little bit better with the idea of a phoneme. That's the ideal linguistic sounds in our consciousness, in our minds. How we produce that sound is another thing. And every and each one of us produces the same sound in a little bit of a different fashion. So, qira'at, or these variants, are our human production of the otherwise ideal text. Any questions? Why would variation exist? The story or the common belief among Muslims is that the Prophet Muhammad himself rendered the Quran to his companions. And traditions have it that the Prophet himself reviewed the Quran in its entirety twice before he died. And also, tradition records an incident where the second caliph had a fight with another companion of the Prophet because both of them read one verse in two different ways. Both resorted to the Prophet to arbitrate because each made the claim that they have heard it so from the Prophet. And the Prophet concurred. that both variants of the verse were correct. So partly, a variation in the Quran is a mystery. And I'll come back to this point a little bit later, but I'm using it now to start a point that one of you may ask, if the Quran contains these variants, why should we consider them all to be correct? Shouldn't only one variant be correct and the others not? If the Prophet has pronounced them, would it be possible that the Prophet has pronounced them in many different ways? All these readings, all these variant readings, have come to us, or at least have come to Ibn Mujahid in the beginning of the 4th century of the Islamic era, through a chain of transmission that ended at the Prophet. In the chapter you will read, you will see a diagram visualizing the chain of transmission. So every person has learned, so every person whom Ibn Mujahid took from has learned the variant reading from an earlier source. And that earlier source extends back verifiably to one of the companions of the Prophet, who in turn has heard it from the Prophet. Any question? So, if this is the case, what is the scope, or what is the limit of variability? And here I would like to take a second and tell you a small story. By the 4th century of the Islamic era, where Ibn Mujahid lived and composed his book, there were several more readings then he canonized. Ibn Mujahid canonized 7 readings, 7 variant readings. Before him and after him, several attempts for canonization existed. Tabari, 20 readings, I think, and some other 10 readings. But the methodology that Ibn Mujahid used did not only include, was not limited to a solid chain of transmission only, but also extended to linguistic and religious knowledge. And by applying this apparatus, which we will talk about next time, he included in his canon 7 variant readings. There's plenty of other readings which were out of the canon and the Arabs called shawaz. And shawaz does not mean anomalous. But in fact, mean a term that means marginal. In other words, there are variant readings that could be also excellent in chain of transmission, but not in linguistic correctness, for instance. Right? So my point is that variation or qira'at was a very, very diversified field. There were many variant readings. The fact that 7 were canonized and later followed does not mean they are the only ones that do exist. Most of the Arab Muslim world now uses the variant reading Qira'at Hafs. While few areas, especially in North Africa, use Wash. That's another canonical reading. But what I want to tell you is that there are a lot of variant readings. Ibn Mujahid in the 4th century canonized 7, but we are practically now limited probably to 2. And that's acceptable to Muslims because, like I said, these are reflections of an ideal reality. Now, back to an earlier point about the Prophet accepting two variations on the same verse. And like I said, the reason is not known, if there is a reason. But there are geographical dialectal reasons or partial reasons for the existence of variation in general and variant readings in particular. Early Muslims during the lifetime of the Prophet and immediately thereafter came to live in Medina from different dialectal regions in the Arabian Peninsula. With the early Arab conquests inside the Arabian Peninsula and immediately outside it in Iraq, in the Levant, and in Egypt, those early companions were either dispatched or migrated, where they started teaching the locals the Quran. Most probably teaching them to recite the Quran. And every one of them, isolated from each other as they were, taught how they have learned the Quran from the Prophet and or early companions. And every group of new learners developed, therefore, and their idiosyncratic reading of the Quran from their mentor. There is no time now to discuss the linguistic situation on the Arabian Peninsula. But it's enough to say that phonetic and structural differences existed among the Arabs. Some of these differences were quite distinctive, and some others were minute. And early companions belonged to different tribal dialects, and when they migrated, they transferred what they have learned. Also, the Ottomanic Codex may probably also have contributed to the perpetuation of these differences somehow. Any question before I go on?
How would the codex perpetuate the differences, the alphabetic codex?
Yeah. I will explain that in a second. So you might expect the codex to iron out structural differences between variant readings. And that's understandable because the codex theoretically replaced all other written records of the Quran that may have existed anywhere among Muslims or have circulated in Medina and elsewhere. So this was replaced by al-Mus'haf al-Imam and a copy of the Codex. However, yeah, this is true, but the Arabic script may indeed have contributed to the perpetuation of the variant readings by means of recording consonants only. So variant readings that have to do with vowels, vowel quality and vowel length, shadda, hamza, internal voweling, were not determined by the codex because the codex did not represent short vowels. Therefore, individual and dialectal variation continued despite the unifying effort and effect of the codex. This can explain, at least in part, why most of qira'at is variation in sounds. Or like we will see in a few minutes, in structural features that have to do with the sounds of the Arabic language. Any questions? Or
Yeah.
comments? Go ahead.
So then how are these variants dealt with when it came to like the Kufan period during, I think it's during the Umayyad when they started putting the diacritical marks in?
Very good. That's a very good question. Well, everybody read, like you see now, Brian has a mushaf which contains in red diacritics the different variant readings. You can do without, right? And also, the issue with vowels does not have to do much with the addition of dots and diacritics. Because as we would see in the case of Imana, for instance, that cannot be issue. That's an issue that cannot be explained or sorted out by a vowel representation. In addition, Jared, I honestly do not know for a fact how fully short voweled are the texts in the early Umayyad period. The copies of the Quran that I saw from the first 100 years do not have complete short vowel representations. Other questions or comments? No? Okay. Like I said, most of the variant readings, the qira'at, have to do with the sounds of the language. One of the most prominent is the use of imala. Does anybody know what imala is? No? Okay, let me give a quick example. Who knows the Arabic word for the English noun door?
Bob.
Say it again.
Bob.
Once more, please.
Bob.
Yes, bab. 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 So do you hear the long vowel a, bab, bab, bab? That's the sound. Imala is taking this sound a little bit more towards the E, saying babe, babe. What is the word, the Arabic word for money? Not
Masari.
flus, not masari,
Mal.
mal. Thank you. Masari is a dialectal word. So is flus. Mal. And in imala, you would say male, male. Technically, the a sound is produced by the tongue lower in your mouth and your lips are open. The same sound with imana is produced by your tongue elevated to a medium position between resting at the bottom and touching your palate. So it's in the middle of your mouth. Imela. Okay. Any question?
I don't have a question, but Professor, I'm gonna join from my phone because my computer's going to die.
Okay.
Would you be able to let me in just a minute?
Yeah, sure. So, imala is one of these quite prominent sound phenomena, right? How do we start any Quranic recitation?
With Bismillah.
Mhm.
With Bismillah.
Yeah. Can you say it, please, Jared?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
Say it again.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
Okay, thank you. So Jared says Bism Allah. Can somebody else do it? Thank you, Jared.
Yeah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
Okay, thank you very much, Mahmoud. Can you say it again?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
Very good. Can you notice the difference between Jared's Bismillah and Mahmoud's Bismillah?
Yeah, so the way Jared said it, like Bism is its own word, and then you say Allah. And the way Mahmoud said it is it like flows between Bismillah. Like the alif turns.
Yes. But my main concern, Fred, is the vowel quality in Allah. In Jared's rendition, it's Bism Allah. In Mahmoud's, it's Bismillah. Okay. Can somebody, who of you guys knows Ayat al-Kursi?
I can say it.
Very good. Slowly, please.
Yeah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim and the first verse.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم.
Thank you very much. See, do you notice the difference in Mahmoud's rendition of the word Allah in Bismillah and then in the first verse of Ayat al-Kursi, Allahu la ilaha illa huwa. This is a very good example of what I said earlier. Variants are local. The rule does not apply in every instance of the word. It does not apply consistently.
In this case, would it be because of the kasra at the end of ism? Bismillah kind of changes the tone.
Maybe, but it is like this. Well, interestingly, I kind of agree. Yeah, It could be a case of progressive assimilation. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's no harf jar in the other Allah he used, so it's almost like the harf jar, the kasra changed the. Yeah, there's an assimilation between the two.
And also, but also notice, Jared, that Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum. The instances of the long aleph, the long vowel have different qualities regardless of the environment. But also, there are instances where the sound variation is not in the vowel, it's in the consonant. Like, and I mean shadda. Let's go to Surah 85 in the Quran. Let's go together to Surah 85, verse 8. Sorry, verse 4. Surah al-Buruj. Right? Are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Can somebody read the verse?
I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
قتل أصحاب الأخدود.
Thank you. Once more, please.
قتل أصحاب الأخدود.
Yes, thank you. قتل أصحاب الأخدود. قتل أصحاب الأخدود. This is passive voice. The verb قتل is a verb in the past tense. Passive voice past tense from the verb قتل, to kill. And it's form 1. And form 1, فعل, does not have a shadda. However, some variant readings have it قتل أصحاب الأخدود with the shadda on the ta. And it becomes a passive voice past tense of form 2, فعل. Can anybody tell me the difference, the potential difference between قتل without a shadda and قتل with a shadda?
In this case, wouldn't it be the amount of the action? In one case, it's a single instance. With fa'ala, it'd be more like it's a continuous thing.
Continuous thing, maybe, or
it's reflexive,
no.
or it's causing something to do. I mean, it's to cause something to do.
Causing what to happen? Causing people to be killed?
Yeah, but it actually doesn't in this case, though. It means like a repeated act of killing.
Exactly. It adds a number to the verb. So قتل would mean like there was a repeated action of killing. Right? But qutila would mean there is an action, a killing action. That's a difference. And that difference may or may not be caused by the defective Arabic script. I'm saying it may because the shadda is not initially, it was not initially represented in the earlier version of the Mus'haf. And I'm saying it may not because, in fact, the existence of a shadda has a potential meaning difference that is logically acceptable in the text. Right? Let's take two more examples. Let's go to Surah 88. Surah 88, verse 17. And it's Surah al-Isra.
Which verse?
17. And 20. Oh, yeah.
وكم أهلكنا من القرون من بعد نوح وكفى بربك بذنوب عباده خبيرا بصيرا.
Is it 17? أفلا ينظرون إلى الإبل كيف خلقت؟
سورة الإسراء.
Yeah. Surah 88. So the word خلقت, are you guys all here?
Still here.
No.
Sorry, I think I made a mistake. What is Surah? Okay.
سورة الغاشية.
Yeah, al-Ghashiyah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
أفلا ينظرون إلى الإبل كيف خلق.
No. Verse 17 and verse 20.
وإلى الأرض كيف سطحت.
Okay. أفلا ينظرون إلى الإبل كيف خلقت. And that in a variant reading خلقت. Right? With a shadda. And in the verse number 20, أفلا وإلى الأرض كيف سطحت. And this verb سطحت again appears in variant readings with a shadda.
The variant reading that you're talking about, is it one of the 7 or is it a different one?
It is one of the 7. And we will get more examples of that, Brian, next week when we take a good look at Ibn Mujahid. Okay. There are also some sound phenomena that have to do with syntactic features, like the internal passive. You guys know in Arabic, the passive voice in classical Arabic, the passive voice is formed by changes made to the internal vowel of the verb. So a verb like we have seen, qatala, that's an active voice. The passive voice is qutila. So daraba in the passive voice becomes doriba. That internal vowel is also an aspect of variant readings. Give you some examples. Let's go to Surah 86. Oh, Surah 86, verse, oh God, sorry. Yeah, verse number 7. And it's Surah al-Tariq, right?
Right.
يخرج من بين الصلب والترائب, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this verb, يخرج, is in the active voice. Some variant readings have it يخرج, يخرج من بين الصلب والترائب. Let's take 2 more examples. Surah number 88, please. And verse 4. And it's Surah al-Zukhruf. No, sorry. Surah 88 is Surah al-Ghashiyah. Right? Are you there?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Can somebody read it?
Salla naran hamia.
Tasla naran,
Okay. Naran
tasla naran hamiyah.
hamia.
Yeah. Can you try it one more time?
Asla naran hamia.
Excellent. And that verb, tasla, is in some variant readings, tusla, naran hamia. And the same surah, verse 22, no, I lied. I'm sorry. Skip that example. Stick to number 4 only. Tusla naran hamia. So internal vowel in a passive voice and non-passive voice internal vowel also in nouns and verbs is a subject for variant readings. I'll give you also a different sound phenomenon that is very interesting, which is tanween. Can somebody explain to us what tanween is? No idea?
You said the mean, right?
Tanween is adding a na sound to the end of a noun when that noun is indefinite, singular. So, kitabun, muallimatun, indefinite singular nouns in classical Arabic take a tanween on. Go to Surah 85, verse, God, sorry, 85, verse 21. Surah Al-Buruj.
بل هو قرآن مجيد.
Yes. بل هو قرآن مجيد. In some variant readings, the word Qur'anun is read Qur'anu. بل هو قرآن. Go also to Surah 89, verse number 1. Surah Al-Fajr. Can somebody read the first ayah of Surah Al-Fajr?
والفجر وفجري
Okay, I'm the host. This is not good.
Continue the class, Brian. Come on.
What happened?
He just dropped off.
Oh, I thought it was me.
You didn't do anything wrong.
No, I was gonna say it and then everything went quiet.
You said it.
While we have this buffer period, do we by chance have a link to our group chat?
I can find it in the inbox. I'll send it.
That'll work. Thank you, Fred.
Am I allowed to dismiss class after 15 minutes?
Good
I'll
question.
allow it.
Thanks, as long as I have permission. I'll let you guys know just a few more minutes.
Thank you.
One interesting thing is I'm looking at this Qira'at, and not all of the Qira'at he mentioned are actually in this 7 version Qira'at, at least that I have. So I was trying to find them, but can't find everything he's talking about.
You have the link to that book by chance? The one that you're
Yeah.
looking at?
Can you
Could
send
you
me
send
it?
that in chat? Yeah.
I actually have it in paper copy, so I don't know if you can find it online. Maybe.
Are you in the WhatsApp group? Like, can you send pictures there?
Yeah. I think. Wait, am I in the WhatsApp group? I don't think I am.
If you're not, I sent the link in the chat.
Okay.
Yes, please join.
Hello, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
I can hear you.
Yep.
I didn't know what happened to my computer, so I'm sorry, it froze. So I had to go to my phone. I apologize.
Brad thought he insulted you.
No, I thought I crashed. I was going to say it, and then everything went quiet.
Yeah, my computer crashed. I apologize. Well, anyways, which verse? Yeah. So we're in Surah 85, verses 12 to 15. Can somebody read them, please? Hello, you guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. So just always keep me informed because now I'm traumatized.
سورة البروج.
Yes. Verses 15, sorry, 12 to 15.
إن بطش ربك لشديد إنه
Mhm.
هو يبدئ ويعيد وهو الغفور الودود ذو العرش المجيد.
Yes. And these verses also suffered a lot of variation in case marking, right? Which is interesting because case marking um, is a very well-known dialectal difference. The pre-Islamic dialects of Arabic differed remarkably in marking case. If you go to also Surah An-Nisa, verse 1, Surah An-Nisa, verse 1,
You know what number that is?
4.
Okay, thanks.
Uh-huh. Can somebody read?
يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا.
Yeah. The word al-arham, okay. الذي تساءلون به والأرحام. You see al-arhama in the Mus'haf, right? This word has also suffered a lot of variation according to the different readings. So, generally speaking, what I want to say is that the differences in Quran are numerous and in different phonetic or morphophonetic features, but they are very local to individual isolated words, numerous as they are. Some of them, in fact, may shed light on meaning, and some of them, like the example of qutila and qutila, can be interpretive in nature, But as early as the companions of the Prophet, qira'at were acceptable and accepted. Technological reading and writing and dialectal situations may have contributed to their persistence and existence in the first place. But with the advent of the printing of the Mus'haf to a large scale, and also modern day dissemination methods, especially the radio in the beginning, and then cassette recordings, and later advances, helped further unify the text and standardize it. Variant readings still exist in books, but did not acquire a firm position or even a presence in the accepted text of the Quran, at least in our modern time. Next class, inshallah, we will discuss the concept of accepted versus shadh and the apparatus by which Ibn Mujahid canonized readings. Hopefully also next week, we will have some time to go through some of the examples he uses. Any questions?
I have a question. I was listening to a lecture by someone at Notre Dame, and he was talking about how I don't think it was mentioned in the document that we read about the printed editions, but how with different printed editions might have been different variants of readings only that ended up making their way into, let's say, Egypt. And then when the people realized that there are variant readings, because not everybody knew there were variant readings, they kind of like took a bunch of them and destroyed the non-preferred ones. So maybe like sunk them in the river or something like that. So I was curious if you know about this and if it was because there was already a preferred reading of the
No,
Quran.
I do not know the particulars of the historical incident, but it's a very famous situation in the middle of the 20th century where there were mistakes, not variant readings, in a printed copy of the Quran. And they were destroyed.
Okay. I figured it was probably the variant readings you're talking about here.
No. These were mistakes. Other questions? So here is what I would like you guys to do before next time. And it is you to read. So I will see you inshallah next week. for a discussion of Ibn Mujahid as-Sab'a fi al-Qira'at. Thank you guys and have a good night
Thank
Yep,
you, you too.
thank you.
and happy Ramadan.
Ramadan Kareem.
Allahu Akram. Shukran. Thank you very much.
Habibi.